All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another, I guess, suggestion recap. If you're wondering what this is literally just me combining all the suggestions I have made for the Final Fantasy XIV classes that have been translated into D&D 5e. This is just me getting all the suggestions into one place. So Soren, the amazing person that has created this, can kind of see them all in one easy to view place instead of watching, 2 weeks worth of videos. Today I'm going to be summing up all the things I said about the Dark Knight. First things first. One of the things I mentioned over and over in all my Dark Knight videos is Well of Darkness is effectively key points for the Dark Knight. They work the same way. The difference being with Burning Blood, you can basically get up to 10 Well of Darkness points back as a bonus action. And you can do that for as many hit dice as you have. So after about level between 4 and 6, you will never run out of Well of Darkness points. They are not a limiting factor whatsoever after that point. So I say get rid of Well of Darkness points completely and have the Dark Knights actually just burn hit dice. You can leave Well of Darkness, just get rid of any mention of Well of Darkness points, get rid of that column on the sheet, and just say, as part of Well of Darkness, you can use your hit dice to fuel your actions. It rebalances the class really, really well, and it's a unique feature of the class. No other class in D&D uses their hit dice for anything other than healing during a short rest, and a lot of people don't use them for that. So this takes a system that already exists in 5th edition and changes it to be useful in a different way. What that means is Burning Blood itself, you can just axe, and the second level ability that you get for this is just the fighting style. Because the fighting style itself will change the character enough that it's not going to feel like second level is just a waste. And you don't really need Burning Blood anymore when you're just using your hit dice. Get rid of Burning Blood, change Well of Darkness to just using hit dice instead of Well of Darkness points, because Well of Darkness points might after about 4th to 6th level don't need to exist. You can use all of your abilities that use Will of the Darkness points as many times as you want. You will never run out of Will of the Darkness points as long as you can get them back with a bonus action. Yes. In addition to that, Blackest Night is really, really interesting at 7th level. But once you start getting into tier 3 and tier 4 content, it's going to become less and less useful. Abyssal Communion is an interesting ability, but the fact that it costs 6 Well of Darkness points, again, if Well of Darkness points were a thing, that doesn't matter. 6 hit dice, that's a big thing to sacrifice. And there's not really a whole lot in the lore of the class. There's nothing in Final Fantasy XIV that would hint that Dark Knights have this ability to be telepathic, really. So as much as it's a cool ability, there are other ways to get to telepathy, including classes that are built around the idea that they can do magical things like give people to telepathy. So instead, replace Abyssal Communion with improved Blackest Night, where from 13th level onward, when you roll the expended hit die for Blackest Night, you get double. You get temporary hit points equal to double the die result and double your charisma modifier. That will make it significantly more useful and make sure that the Dark Knight is using this very, very interesting and useful ability all the way up to max level. I would probably put into the Blackest Night something about you can only have the Blackest Night on one character at a time. Otherwise, there is the possibility of abuse, and it forces you to kind of choose: do I want to use Blackest Night on me? Do I want to use it on an ally? Where is it going to be the most beneficial? Other than those two things, the base class itself is nice. I did kind of flirt around with the idea of adding a limiter to Stalwart Soul, because as it's written right now, it basically means at the start of every combat, the Dark Knight will always have half of their health. They will never have less than half of their health at the start of combat, because every 6 seconds outside of combat, they gain 5 plus their Constitution modifier. So really, after a minute, they probably have all the hit points they're going to need. Due to the fact that you're burning through so many hit dice, I don't really think you need to change that at all. They're already going to have trouble, or they're already going to have to choose between burning hit dice to use their abilities and burning hit dice to stay alive. Just leave Stalwart Soul as it is. One thing I didn't mention in my videos that I think should be a thing is, because we changed from Well of Darkness points to just hit dice, for Curse of the Abyss, instead of it regaining you 1 Well of Darkness point, which was almost useless with the fact that Burning Blood can get you a heck of a lot more, turning that into, I'd say probably 4 hit dice. Because again, it's still a one and done ability, so it needs to feel useful. And there's no way currently for you to regain lost to hit dice. And I think that needs to be built into the class somewhere. You had it as Burning Blood, and that just didn't really work. So going to Curse the Abyss as your way to regain hit dice, I think makes sense. And just increasing it from 1 hit die up to 4 just makes it that much more useful, and kind of justifies the fact that it is a one and done ability. So that is the base class. Going to the Black Blood. The big thing that I wasn't super thrilled about is Plunge is tied to half your strength modifier rounded down. Meaning, until you have a strength modifier of 18, this is a one and done ability, and it's just not useful enough to for it to be a one and done ability. And even when you get 18 or to 20 strength, this is a 2 and done ability. It's just not that useful, and it's an interesting ability. It's a fun ability. There's a lot you can do with it, and making it a one-time use thing is just not conducive to having players ever use it, and they'll feel kind of gypped in their when they take Black Blood, because it feels like 3rd level they don't get anything useful. I would say switch it to link it to their proficiency bonus. Again, proficiency bonus is really useful because at low levels you get to limit it so that they're not abusing it, and then at high levels they can use it a lot more. When they have a bunch of other abilities that they have to choose between, whereas at low levels, they don't have that many. It also gives the unique aspect of the only thing in any of these subclasses of the class itself that makes the Dark Knight a strength and charisma-based class is this one ability. Anywhere else, you could be a dex-based Dark Knight. But this effectively makes Black Bloods have to be strength-based. So if you switch it to just tied to their proficiency bonus, you can have either Dex or strength-based to Dark Knights, which just adds a little bit more choice and creates a little bit more variety without really damaging any aspect of the lore or anything. Like if you look at the Dark Knight, they are incredibly acrobatic with their massive swords. So the idea that they could be using just pure strength to do things, or they could be a much more dexterous and use a much lighter blade, or with D&D in general, use a bunch of different weapons. I just think it works better that way, because now you can have dex-based Dark Knights, whereas without it, all Black Bloods have to be strength-based, which is just limiting when it doesn't need to be. For the rest of Blackbud, it makes sense. It's a cool, interesting subclass. It's a lot of fun. Going to the Abyss Knight, again, it's a really nice, well-made class. The one, the thing I would kind of modify about it, and it's not really a modification as much as it is a clarification. For Dark Star, it says when you cast Burning Hands using the Dark Burst feature, you deal bonus damage equal to your Charisma modifier plus your Adversity bonus. And depending on how you read that, it could be interpreted that Adversity is its own thing. So Adversity is already adding additional a bonus to your attack and damage rolls. And Dark Star, as it's written, makes it sound like you're adding your adversity bonus to twice, which I don't think you really need. I don't know what your intention was with this, but the way I read it is adversity should apply to Dark Burst because it has a damage roll. So your base adversity is going to make Dark Burst more useful. And then Dark Star, simply add your Charisma modifier in addition to your adversity bonus, as opposed to adding double your adversity bonus plus your charisma modifier, which unbalances it just a little bit. So yeah, that would be the only real change I would see is just kind of clarify Dark Star. Do you mean that it's supposed to work in tandem with adversity, or it's just supposed to be you now add your charisma modifier in addition to your adversity bonus that you were already doing? And the wording could simply be when you cast Burning Hands, using the Dark Burst feature, you deal bonus damage equal to your charisma modifier. Period. New sentence. This is in addition to any damage you do from your adversity feature. It would just clarify and make it easier to read. Finally, going to the Dark Magus. This is a really good example of less is more. I go into it in much more detail in the Dark Magus video, but the effect of it is the Dark Magus turns the Dark Knight into a spellcaster, but doesn't give it the ability to spellcast well. And when you combine it with the change I mentioned earlier, which was limiting your or not using Will of Darkness points and just using your hit dice, you can't actually play this class using hit dice because you just go through too many hit dice to be able to use any of these things. And the base class is built around the Dark Side feature, which is additional damage every time you hit. Every other subclass is built around that idea of using your action to use your Dark Side to do something. This, you cannot use Dark Side in conjunction with the Dark Arts. So one of the defining features of the class you can't use as part of the subclass, and that's not good. It means the subclass and the class are fighting against each other, and that always makes a less useful subclass. This is literally the Elemental Monk. Like it looks almost identical wording wise to the monk of the four elements, or the way of the four elements monk from the PHB, which is good. You should use inspiration from the PHB to create new classes. However, there's a lot of stuff in the way of the four elements monk that actually allows you to modify your attacks or do things other than, hey, you can just cast this spell that already exists. So if you wanted to use the Dark Magus, what I would recommend doing, if you go to D&D Beyond and you sort things by number of adds, I think the fourth one down is something to the effect of the improved Way of the Four Elements monk. And they massively change how it works. And add a bunch more abilities that make it a much better class. Right now, the Four Elements Monk is a very underpowered monk class. And it's just not super well designed. If you wanted to keep the Dark Magus as basically an elemental monk for the Dark Knight, look at that and take some inspiration from it. And some of your dark arts have to do something with letting you make its attacks. They can't all be casting spells because the Dark Knight is not a spell casting class. And by basically turning it into, okay, this turn, do you want to be a spellcaster, or do you want to be a weapon based class, doesn't work. It's basically playing two half classes instead of one complete class. The other route you can go is looking at something like the Eldritch Knight or the Blade Singer, and turning this into a melee plus magic class, but you still need to have those melee aspects in there. So there's two different ways you could go with the Dark Magus. Either look at the improved version of the Way of the Four Elements and add some dark arts that allow you to make it attacks, or go the Eldritch Knight Blade Singer route and turn it into a little bit more traditional class that has things that you earn at, 3rd, 6th, 11th, 17th level, but also allow you to dabble in some spell casting. However, like I said before, less is more. There's no rule that every single class has to have 3 subclasses. In the PHB, the Druid, the Ranger, and the Sorcerer all only have 2 subclasses. And the 2 subclasses you have here, Black Blood and the Abyss Knight, are both really cool, really interesting classes. I don't think the Dark Magus is needed. Again, if you're tied to it, let's do it, but it needs to be reworked entirely. If you don't mind kind of giving that up so that you have 2 really strong subclasses instead of 2 good subclasses and then a much weaker one, well, we would just need to refocus it and basically rebuild the entire class. So that's what I thought about the Dark Knight. Again, just like before, if I missed anything and you have been watching all the videos, put them in the comments down below, or go to the Reddit page where I post these videos and mention things there so Soren doesn't miss anything. Again, I'm recording this much later after I've actually recorded the videos, so I forget things. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.